Hello, everyone. I'm Kat Timpf, along with Eric Bolling and Eboni K. Williams, and we are the Fox News Specialists. All right, let's meet today's specialist. She's a former Middle East analyst for the CIA, a former national security advisor to President Obama's 2012 campaign. She'll clear her entire schedule just to watch Ohio State Buckeyes football, and she specializes in foreign policy. Marie Harf is here. And he's a New York Times bestselling author, a human rights activist, and a jazz recording artist. But he specializes in cat songs.
I thought I saw a pussycat a-creeping up on me. You bet I saw a pussycat, as plain as he could be.
That is a real thing. Okay, yeah. All right, Mark Steyn. Mark Steyn is here. Wow. Oh my God. That's your thing.
Yeah, it's nominated for 37 Grammys, I believe.
Well,
they just haven't announced it yet.
You forgot to say something.
Yeah, absolutely.
This proves it. 5 o'clock will never be the same.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And then I'm sure, good to see Marie here, of course. I'm sure the girls' glasses, blonde hair tweets are coming in
blowing up right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
We got to get to the top story on the special list today, James Comey's contentious hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee. The FBI director doubling down a decision to reopen the Hillary Clinton email investigation just days before the election.
Concealing, in my view, would be catastrophic, not just to the FBI, but well beyond. It makes me mildly nauseous to think that we might have had some impact on the election, but honestly, it wouldn't change the decision. And this has been one of the world's most painful experiences. I would make the same decision. I would not conceal that on October 28th.
Comey's testimony comes just one day after Hillary Clinton whined to the sound of the world's tiniest violin about Comey, WikiLeaks, and their impact on her election loss.
But I was on the way to winning until the combination of Jim Comey's letter on October 28th and Russian WikiLeaks raised doubts in the minds of people who were inclined to vote for me but got scared off.
Wow. Okay. Mark, I'm going to go to you here on this. Why do you think she's blaming Comey when we all know she should really be blaming all the sexism?
Well, she should blame herself. She was a stinker of a candidate. Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, most of Scandinavia have all had female prime ministers who got there on their own terms. This was someone who did not connect with people, who was unlikable, and the idea that it has anything to do with WikiLeaks. Jim Comey did not move the meter on the polls. She lost because selected blue-collar demographic in key states switched from voting for Obama to voting for Trump. She didn't have anything to say to them.
Right, yeah. Eric, like I've always thought, I think the basket of deplorables comment hurt way more than any of those things.
Crushed her. But I agree with Mark. It wasn't James Comey or anyone else's. It's her own fault. She was lazy. She didn't campaign hard. She didn't go to Wisconsin. No one told her not to go to Wisconsin. Comey didn't tell her not to go to Wisconsin. Right. She didn't take any risks. And she took the electorate for granted with exactly what you just said. She called half the electorate deplorable and irredeemable. I think that was a crushing blow to her. But as Mark would tell you, the first step to recovery is self-admittance. And as soon as she starts dealing with that and saying, it was my fault, she'd be on her way. Trump just worked 100 times harder than Hillary Clinton worked. And he earned it and he won it.
Well, I think he certainly worked smarter. And here's the thing, from the legal perspective, you know, Jim Comey's taken a lot of heat, a lot of it deservingly so, from both sides of the aisle on this thing. I mean, he was getting beat up pretty bad today by both Republicans and Dems. But there's a part of me as an attorney that says we can't hold facts for politics. That's not how we do business in the law. That's not how we should do business in the Department of Justice. So I don't fault him for that. So not only to y'all's point that it didn't affect the electorate, even if it would have, that should not have changed his opinion. I think he's absolutely right about that. You're right, E. James Comey didn't make her not go to Wisconsin, nor did he tell her to not have a good ground game in parts of Florida, which she didn't, which depressed the black turnout vote, particularly in that area. Had that been what it had been for Obama, she might be in the White House now. That's not
Marie,
Comey's
you look like
fault.
you're agreeing with Eboni a little bit on this?
I am. I actually agree with a couple different things that have been said. Hillary Clinton was a flawed candidate. And actually, I don't care if she ever realizes why she lost. What I care about is that my party, the Democratic Party, realizes Democrats is why she lost, and looks very hard at states like my home state of Ohio, the ground game, the economic message. I do think that there are some Democrats, this is where I'm going to disagree a little bit. If you don't hold facts back from the public, there are a lot of people that say, you wanted to tell the public about the Clinton investigation. There was an active investigation into the Trump campaign that was going on for months. True. And you didn't think it was also your responsibility to tell the public?
That's true, Maria.
For me, that is what's troubling. And the most troubling thing today, or go ahead.
Maria,
sorry,
I want to push back a little bit, though. You're making a lot of that one side of the equation. Let's not forget when James Comey recommended that Hillary Clinton not be indicted.
Right.
That was a big step, and I think he's, look, I'm going to go on record. I think he's wrong. Now, you're a lawyer. You tell me this. I'm pretty sure that intent didn't matter. So if Huma Abedin was sending classified information to her husband, Wiener, that whether she
I've never heard about that.
But intent, if you're violating this act, it doesn't matter if you intend to be violating or not. You're breaking the law.
1,000% right, Eric Bolling. Intent was not required. But Comey said, and this is where I agree with.
He said that's why you didn't.
No. That's actually not what he said.
Prove intent.
No. He said. The reason he didn't improve recommended indictment is because he didn't think he could convict, and that's actually a requirement too. So even though factually intent didn't matter, he's right about that. He didn't feel like it was compelling enough to get a conviction.
But he's the guy who threw Martha Stewart in jail for lying to the FBI in an investigation where there was no underlying crime.
You know the difference there, Mark, though, is he felt he could get a conviction around Martha Stewart in a way that he did not feel people would convict a former
Hillary Clinton is a little bit more powerful than Martha Stewart.
But that's not his job.
Yeah, maybe not now.
His job was to get the investigation and let Loretta Lynch
he's the policeman. He's the policeman,
I agree with you, but what if I told you, Eric, that he is ethically bound to not move forward with prosecutions that he doesn't have a good faith belief that he can get a conviction around?
He just recommends his boss, Loretta Lynch.
Yeah, he's spared her all of this decision making for sure, big time.
But my point, back to Maria, the point was that yes, there were things that I guess you could say helped Trump during that last few weeks of the election, but there are things that actually helped Hillary prior to that, i.e. being no recommendation for an indictment. That was big.
Right. For me, I listened to that today. I felt like we were all going through Jim Comey's therapy session. I don't care how hard this and difficult this was for him. I really don't. Also,
you don't care about his nausea?
I don't care about that.
Okay.
But I do think there is an honest question where if you're going to say and confirm there's an active investigation into one candidate and you also have an active investigation into another, don't the American people also have a right to know that? That, for me, is where I get tripped up here. And the most concerning thing today was that he said the Russians are still trying to interfere.
We're going to talk about that. Russia was playing a big role throughout James Comey's Senate hearing today.
Yep.
The FBI director laid out the looming danger from Vladimir Putin and the Russian government.
Is it fair to say that the Russian government is still involved in American politics?
Yes. One of the lessons that particularly the Russians may have drawn from this is that this works. And so, as I said a month or so ago, I expect to see them back in 2018, especially in 2020. A big part of what the Russians did was pushing out false information, echoing it with these troll farms that they use.
What do you think, Mark? Are we ever going to get away from this Russia talk, or do you think that he's right?
No, that was the other weird thing about this, is that for Democrats, this investigation, this hearing was about Trump and the Russians, and for Republicans, it's about Hillary and the emails. There's actually nothing that he's come up with. He says the Russians were pumping out false information. They actually did us all a favor and pumped out a lot of true information that they got from the Democrat leaks. I sort of agree with Marie's point, but the FBI was behaving very oddly. They offered 50 grand to this ex-MI6 agent if he could prove the stuff in the Trump dossier. That seems, I mean, so we have a thing where the National Policing Agency of the United States is basically trying to get the goods on both presidential campaigns. So far, they have not managed to get the goods on Trump.
And that MI6 agent was an Oppo research professional for Hillary against Donald Trump.
Right. So he was looking to be in the fortunate position where he would have been the only guy on the planet who was in the pay of both the Hillary campaign and the United States government. That's very bizarre.
Throw one more theory up here. So they asked James Comey whether or not this information had any effect. He said, well, maybe it did. I'm not positive, but maybe it did. But look for the Russians to do this again in 2018 and 2020. The follow-up question was, have they done this in the past? And Comey would have had to have said, of course, they've been doing this for decades. Right.
They do it in Europe.
And
they're doing it all over Europe
right now in the French election right now.
Right now. And, you know, Marco Rubio has actually been really strong on this. He's come out and said they didn't like Hillary, so they weighed in favor of the Republican Party in 2016. Someday, they're not going to like us. And they are equal opportunity people when it comes to playing in elections. And someday it's going to be the Republican Party that's on the receiving end of this. We as Americans should care that Russians, a hostile force at times, are meddling in our election.
I think everybody cares about that. I think that just because you can also be upset about what you find in the emails and not say, oh, I'm glad.
I don't know that everybody's upset about that, though, Kat. I think that some people were very, very excited and cheerleading around the fact that this all started around Hillary.
I meant upset at her for what she did. Not
right, but they should be upset with Russia for what they're doing, because to Marie's point and to Rubio's point,
I don't think those are mutually exclusive things.
If it's good for the goose, it'll be good for the gander eventually.
It's a given that all great powers prosecute their own national interests in other people's elections.
And
Obama interfered in the Brexit vote.
I challenge Vladimir Putin. That's his argument that you just made.
No, I think every country, if the Belgians identify a particular interest, they want to go for it, good luck to them. We should expect that. That's a given. It's not unusual.
Well, I challenge James Comey, and I challenge you, Marie. Yes. Do you think that whatever the Russians did affected the outcome of the election? Of course, they wanted to get involved and steal and hack, but do you think it actually changed the outcome?
I think that the WikiLeaks emails, the content of those, impacted how some voters voted. And those were put into the public domain in large part because of Russian intelligence activity. Was it determinative? No, I think there were.
That's where I was
going. And look, I'm going back. And I'm going back to the first discussion here. I think there were 6 or 7 big reasons Hillary Clinton lost, starting with bad campaign strategy, candidate with a lot of baggage. We can go down the list that I think Democrats need to be looking at. We should not overlook this piece of it, though, for future.
No, but you know what? One final point on this. Hillary Clinton wrote a book called Hard Choices. She needs to write another book called Unforeseeable Consequences, because this should have been foreseeable.
All right, well, pressure is mounting for Stephen Colbert to be fired following a vulgar joke about President Trump. The campaign to remove him from the airwaves next. And make sure to keep the conversation going on Twitter using the hashtag Fox News Specialists.
A growing frenzy now targeting Stephen Colbert's job. The late-night host is facing ferocious backlash following a profane joke about President Trump.
You attract more skinheads than free Rogaine. You have more people marching against you than cancer. You talk like a sign language gorilla who got hit in the head. In fact, the only thing your mouth is good for is being Vladimir Putin's holster.
Ooh, the hashtag Fire Colbert is trending on most social media after his vile assault. But so far, Colbert is still remaining silent amid the firestorm. Now, Marie, first I have to ask you, did you think the joke itself was funny?
No.
Okay, just going to have all clear minds and hearts around here.
No. Well, I watched yesterday. I know what the consensus of this panel is.
Yeah, but I wanted a fresh voice on it, so you didn't find it funny.
I did not find it funny, and I just cringed. And I like Stephen Colbert, and I think he's smart, and I do think he's funny.
Yeah, normally, but not this.
Normally,
but,
not this.
So not funny, but fireable offense for you.
I don't think so.
Okay. Why?
I don't think so. I know there's been a lot of discussion about whether it was homophobic or whether, you know, the LGBT community is pretty up in arms about it. I don't think it went quite that far, and I don't think that he should be fired.
Now, Mark, I'm coming to you on this because I'm just going to guess that you are not an advocate for an overly PC culture.
No, I'm not in favor of people being fired for jokes. That's actually a very Soviet thing. In the Warsaw Pact, you could make the wrong joke and your life would be destroyed. And I'm not in favor of that happening here. I happen to be in a court case in British Columbia that involved an expert witness flown in from Philadelphia to discuss my jokes for a day on the witness stand. Those idiot jurists up in BC then followed it by prosecuting a guy for putting down a lesbian heckler in a lesbophobic way. So I'm not in favor of wrecking people's lives for jokes. I will say, though, on the point of comedy, I don't think actually the Rogaine line is a joke. When he said Trump attracts more skinheads than free Rogaine, skinheads shave their heads.
That's what I thought too. They're bald on purpose. They don't want Rogaine, then they got to spend more on razor blades.
And the thing about this is he's got like dozens of writers, this guy.
Yeah.
You do your lines yourself.
Exactly.
Why did this joke get through? That's what we need, an investigation.
I think I know why the joke got through. Look, so here's what this was. This was a shot back at Trump after Trump abruptly cut off a CBS John Dickerson interview from Sunday. But here's the rub here. We were there on Monday at the White House filming something for this. CBS was back on Monday morning. The morning show went to the White House. The White House was good enough to put them right in the West Wing. They had people coming in and out. Sean Spicer came, Reince Priebus came, Ivanka came. So in 2 days, they had access to President Trump. The next day, they had access to all the senior advisors. And then Colbert decides to take a shot at Trump. It was a cheap shot at Trump. That administration was more than welcoming to CBS. And that was all because Trump ended in an interview abruptly he didn't like. And by the way, after that interview, Dickerson got on Air Force One and traveled to Pennsylvania with Trump. Right. It's insane. I'm not sure where Colbert got this, but it's clearly a management hat tip saying, okay, go for it.
Well, that's not what bothers me so much as these people on the internet that are actually saying that I don't know how you could be a sane person and think that that is a fireable offense. I don't know how you can have a life and feelings and emotions and relationships with real life people and spend your emotions, have emotions to spend, getting mad on the internet about a joke that a stranger made on a TV show to the point where it would be that emotionally consuming to you. I just don't understand it.
And I think even more problematic than that, Kat, is the fact that people are equating it to homophobia, which there is real life problems around homophobia. The trans community is under attack. These are real life problems, and kind of dropping the H words, kind of like how I feel about dropping
Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, that kind of cheapens what real homophobia looks like.
But it's not. It's not a homophobic joke.
It's not at all.
I can't even understand the. I mean, I loathe the way we are now supposed to vet jokes for their ideological compliance. So I think you should be allowed to reject it because it's a lousy joke, it's not a funny joke, but this idea that it should fit some kind of ideological model is very disturbing.
I think so often now people get what they want, or they're praised for being so much more sensitive and culturally aware if they get offended by something first, or if they say, oh, hey, actually, this is offensive, that they're rewarded for that. People all the time get rewarded for that. So they kind of are watching and listening with these feelers of, could there be something offensive? Because then I'm going to blog about it. And then.
But let's also admit that it is offensive to some people, whether we agree with that or not. I don't. Sure. But and my point is this: not that he should be fired. I don't think he should be fired, but I think he does owe whoever is offended for whatever reason a sincere apology, not just the fake.
But what a weird apology would that be? Sorry, Trump. That
Well, he's
no, not Trump.
All right, guys. So
equally offended.
No,
don't do that,
for Republicans and their health care overhaul efforts, with a major meeting underway right now. When we come back, stay with us.
No. At this hour, House Republican leaders are meeting on the state of play for their health care push, and it comes after a potential game changer earlier today for repealing and replacing Obamacare. Two key Republican lawmakers previously against the latest GOP bill have flipped after securing more funds to assist Americans with pre-existing conditions. The White House reacted to the big swing in momentum earlier today.
The goal is to pass it, which we continue to get closer and closer to every day. But you don't want to put it up, and not move forward. So the president wants to make sure that the leadership is confident that they can pass the bill, and I think he's done everything he can in terms of speaking with members of the House to get there. But ultimately, that's going to be their decision to do it. And I think we continue to feel optimistic about the direction that we've seen the legislation go.
Democrats, however, are still not on board with the new amendment, using their typical scare tactics. Nancy Pelosi says the bill is still an assault on the American people.
They have put this forth to make it look like, oh, we've improved the bill. No, it doesn't improve the bill. And this is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. But worse than that, it is an assault on the good health of the American people.
All right, Marie, I'm going to, this is,
I knew that was
this
coming
is,
to me.
but here's one thing.
I felt it was coming.
I happen to agree with the Democrat. I don't think this bill was good. I've said from the very beginning, this feels like Ryan care, and it's not something that Donald Trump should be pushing. Yet, Sean Spicer, and I disagree with this, his line, that line was right there, was the goal is to pass it. My problem is that seems like it's the goal instead of passing a bill that's better for the American people.
Exactly. And this got them in trouble when they failed to do that a few weeks ago, and it's going to get them in trouble again. I could not agree with you more. It's not just Democrats that aren't on board with this bill yet. There are still a lot of Republicans that are undecided or knows that I think they're going to have to flip. And the key here is these pre-existing conditions. High-risk pools, which I think the Republicans, or at least the Trump administration, has come forward, this is the fix, they don't actually work that well. And so if the Republican Party heads into 2018 either not passing anything, and I think that'll be disastrous, or passing something that drives people's costs up, that makes premiums go up and people lose their care, just politically, that's going to be awful. And for actual Americans, I do think that will be bad.
Mark Steyn, let's talk about this.
Not just
Marie
politically.
says the key is the pre-existing condition. I disagree. I think the key here is affordable health care for more people.
Yes.
Well, I think they're related because you can't have genuine health insurance if you have the pre-existing conditions.
Right.
If you can fall off the roof and tell the ambulance to swing by the insurance agency on the way to the hospital, whatever that is, it's not insurance.
Exactly.
And I'd like to kind of wander off the partisan reservation a little bit here, because it seems to me the problem with this bill is that it preserves all the governmentalization of healthcare, which is incredibly complicated, but without restoring genuinely private healthcare. So we have neither a private nor a public system. And to be honest, I think the real Trump was the guy on the campaign trail who said, well, you know, single payer seems to work well enough in Scotland and Canada. And it does for most people. I'd be in favor of leaving Obamacare in place as a government healthcare system and restoring genuine private health care in this country for people who want a real private health care.
Kat, if we did that, Mark Steyn's plan, you know how much it would cost us? How many trillions of dollars it would cost?
Right, of course. I don't think it looks good for this passing. First of all, so much, as you mentioned, Marie, of the focus is this would be really bad politically if it doesn't pass. And I think if people are focusing on that instead of, hey, this is a great bill, you're going to love it, Americans, then that's a kind of a bad sign. And the campaign trial, I mean, I know Trump was for single payer, but the attitude of have to elect a Republican, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. This is not repeal and replace. This is keep it and tweak it a little.
And call it something else. And call it something else. And here's the other thing, E. I think I get how important the stakes are for him to pass something for 2018 on health care. I think walk away from it right now. I think that politically this is not the time. Go to infrastructure, go to tax reform, which a lot of people are waiting with bated breath. And I think he can actually deliver on that in a way that matters. And I think you come back to this maybe right before the midterms with something stronger that makes more sense and actually makes health care better.
Let me give you the theory behind the Obamacare first.
Okay.
Mark will agree with this. Repeal and replace Obamacare, come back with a package that they can find some tax savings, savings within Obamacare, and then use that savings to make the tax deal a bigger deal, a better deal for Americans.
That's right. And that's the economic argument, right? This is what's so perplexing to me, though. Republicans for 8 years kept voting to repeal Obamacare. Was there no one sitting in a basement office at the Capitol writing an actual plan that for when they were in power they could pass?
No.
No, I think it's a resounding no.
But I think that gets
and that's
to the
shocking to me.
I mean, it is a joke, and particularly now we're just going for the Obamacare light, which means you'll still have the 5-figure deductibles and the premiums rising, and you'll get less and less for it. And we already spend more per cap. The United States government already spends more per capita per citizen on health care than the French government does. So we have a government health system, whether we want to call it that or not. And I'd much rather we were honest about it and said, here's a lousy, decrepit government healthcare system, just like they have in Scotland, and you won't be able to go to fancy hospitals that have got restaurants like shopping malls. That's all gone. Here's going to be a good enough, for most of you, there'll be a lousy, third-rate, good enough government healthcare system, and we'll have a private system if you want to pay for it.
Do not agree with that man on screen right whatsoever.
No, he'd kill Marie's party for 20 years if he went that way.
That's why all these people with money come over here to get treated instead of staying in
That's right.
their foreign national countries to get that government-funded health care. All right, we've got to do this. An unlikely source calling for Democrats to get over their obsession with identity politics right after this.
Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house, play the music.
Welcome back to the Fox News Specialist. Our specialists today are Mark Steyn and Marie Harf. So let's continue the conversation. Should Democrats ditch identity politics? Even diehard liberal Bill Maher is saying the time is now.
Ease up on the identity politics. They pulled off quite a neat trick in 2016. They made white people, who are still the majority in this country, feel like a minority. One of the problems the Democrats have is that they obsess about things like Halloween costumes and the name of the Washington Redskins, and there's millions of people in this country who are saying, how about a little bit more of, I'm going to get your job back. That's why they listen to a con man about that.
Okay. So, Marie, everybody knows my mother was a huge Donald Trump supporter. She voted for the president, and that is her position. So I would never, she's a very strong woman. I would never try to change her mind. But I say, but Mom, I mean, kind of listen to some of the crass, off-color comments, offensive, insulting comments. Does that matter to you? And you know what she said, Marie? She said, yeah, I hear that. I don't necessarily like that, but ultimately his message of economic prosperity and changing the tax bracket to meet my needs as a small business owner is a more compelling argument. So I want to go back to something you said earlier in the show. As a Democrat and someone who really gets this stuff, where do you want the party to go moving forward?
You're absolutely right. Your mother's absolutely right. I should
she'll love that.
We need a message for the American people about what happens in their lives every day, and that starts with the economy. That starts with jobs. It starts with the future of work in this country, what's happening on the ground in places like my home state and places like your home state. People want to hear about things that impact their lives, and the Democratic Party forgot to do that. Hillary Clinton forgot to do that. They also made it an entirely negative campaign. So they didn't outline a vision. What can we offer you if we're in power? And that was a huge mistake. I worked on the 2012 Barack Obama campaign. It was a little different.
Yeah, so Mark, what we know is that she actually didn't forget, because as a woman that's been in American politics for over 30 years, she had to have known better. So was the misstep just that glaringly obvious that she missed it? It was right in front of her face? Or how can you even possibly account for this?
Well, they believe that they had what they call the coalition of the ascendant, which is if you break the electoral cake into slivers, then you've got blacks and you've got gays and you've got Muslims and you've got transgendered, and if you put them all together, they're on the way up, and old white males are on the way out, and they're going to die. And the problem was, in 2016, they weren't dead yet. And as Bill Maher said, as wizened and geriatric and demographically irrelevant to the future as they were, they all went and voted for Trump. And God bless them, because I'm so bored by identity politics.
There's so many more things that are identity politics now, too, by the way. When I write about this all the time, there's, there's extrovert privilege is a thing. So if you're shy, there's left-handed is supposed to be a protected class. It's just everyone sitting around and thinking, how can I be a victim today? And it's not very beneficial.
I'll tell you what else they forgot, the Democrats, is that the economic message of Donald Trump resonated with African Americans and it resonated with Hispanics. No one saw that coming. They said he wasn't going to get the vote. Donald Trump got more than the combined vote of John McCain and Mitt Romney combined, right, as a percentage. He also got a far higher percentage of Latin American Hispanic vote than anyone gave him credit for because of the economic message. At the end of the day, people cared about, can I take my family out to dinner this week?
Eric Bolling, I have a very important question for you, though. How did they forget this? When you know who the original architect of a lot of that populist, Bill Clinton. So her own husband understood this so acutely in 1992. How did this happen?
He tried to push the campaign this way, I think.
Because it was Donald Trump. Because it was Donald Trump. She was saying, oh, why aren't I 50 points ahead? Look, I'm running against a reality TV guy. And the whole message became not, here's what I'll offer you, but you got to vote for me. Look how mean he is.
That wasn't even her message. Was it's my turn?
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
Her only message was, it's my turn. We had the first African-American president. Now we're going to have the first female president, woman president.
Yeah,
and she blew it.
And in that sense, she was a victim of identity politics. Because in the end, if you don't have a job and somebody's on TV saying, vote for me because I'm a woman, that's absolutely irrelevant to you. Most of us, in the end, if you have a society, people have common concerns. Do we have jobs? Are there schools to go to? What's the health care?
Are we safe?
Yes, and those things don't depend on whether you're Muslim or transgendered or left-handed or any of the other stupid. And they have to keep inventing smaller and smaller categories.
But we have to talk to all of them. We can't just focus on old white men in Ohio.
Well, I don't think anyone's saying that.
I know. I think some people are, not here, but in the broader sort of political world, we have to still focus on the issues and causes and principles that matter to the Democratic Party.
All right, new incidents of political correct madness across the U.S. and Kat Timpf is all fired up about them when we return.
We've got two stories of politically correct insanity that will only leave you asking, what is even happening? First up, a University of Florida student reportedly lost points on a history paper for using the word man instead of a gender-neutral alternative like humankind. All right, Mark, I'm going to go to you first because you taught some seminars at my college. So you had to grade some papers.
Right.
Why would you ever deduct points for using a word the way that the word means on a paper?
Yeah, man and mankind do not refer, they refer to both sexes, they refer to the human race. But beyond that, I think it's totalitarian to try and control language, to try and say there are bad words and there are banned words that you cannot use. If the teacher wants to use humankind, go for it. Say what you want. But if the student says mankind, to be penalized for that, we are engaging in the totalitarian moronization of a generation doing this stuff.
Yeah. You go ahead, did you?
Wow, no, that was a lot. I think that professors in colleges, they should teach students how to think critically and how to write well and how to look at ideas they've never thought about before, learn new skills. This seems crazy.
Right. He actually lost points for this.
And he could have lost points for just being a bad writer. Yeah.
But for this
This is such a trick question. He was really smart. He could have seen it coming and gone with humankind. It was clearly the wording was blah, 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 mankind, blah, 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 humankind. You knew the teacher was setting him up. He should have just gone with humankind just to be safe.
No, I don't think so. I think you got to fight the system a little bit.
No, and writing is about rhythm. So if you take a two-syllable word and replace it with a three-syllable word, every writer is entitled to choose the words he wants to say. When Stephen Colbert writes that joke about Vladimir Putin, I don't say, why don't you try it with male bodily part holster, it will work just as well.
Professors do.
All right, well, Eboni, I want to get you in on this next one here. We have Visions Gallery, which is an art gallery in Toronto. It's decided to cancel a scheduled exhibit by artist Amanda P.L. because she has been accused of committing, hold on, cultural genocide against Indigenous people with her paintings. Essentially, she just drew inspiration from the culture, and that's apparently genocide.
Yeah,
do you agree?
Of course I don't agree with that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. I mean, here's the picture. It's to the point, look, and I get because cultural appropriation, for me, I think is a real thing as a black woman in this country. I don't like it. I think culture should be respected. I think you can be influenced. In fact, I think that is, that's respectful. In fact, I appreciate people paying homage to that type of stuff. So this type of accusation, it's taking it so far. It's so ridiculous that, again, when there are real instances of actual cultural appropriation, then it has no weight to
She wasn't claiming it as her own. She was saying, oh, I was influenced by this and this and this.
And she owned
I incorporated in this, and she's researched a lot about it. What more can you ask for that? I mean, what culture invented painting? Maybe no one should be painting then because you're appropriating from the first dude who ever painted. How far do you take this?
I think that was Ugg the caveman.
Yeah,
so
well,
I don't know which.
I don't think I'm descended from him, so I can never paint.
And art is supposed to make you think. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to make you look at the world in ways you haven't before.
And they should be freer, right? Like, I think artists have a lot more freedom.
The entertainment, I'm so uncomfortable with this kind of censorship, which is really what it is.
So Robert Mapplethorpe has some provocative pictures that I don't agree with. I wouldn't show my family the pictures.
Right.
But I understand there's a right. I mean, we have a First Amendment right to express, and that's fantastic. Remember the painting or the depiction of Christ in urine, right. Remember that?
Yeah.
And everyone said, oh, you have to let them do that. I don't agree with any of that, but I agree that you have to let artists be artists. Isn't this the exact opposite? Aren't they saying your art is offensive to this group, so therefore you shouldn't be able to display it in a gallery?
They didn't even just say appropriation, they said genocide.
Right. Genocide.
And if you're going to start telling me that a single art show is single-handedly killing off an entire culture, I'm going to tell you you're a crazy person. That's just not how it works.
But your point, Eric, is right. If you criticize art from a conservative point of view, if you say you shouldn't be soaking a crucifix in urine because it's disrespectful to everyone says you uptight Christians need to get with the program. What the hell is wrong with you guys? But if you do it from a left-wing identity politics point of view, you say, oh no, this is cultural. I mean, this again is the left's double
hypocrisy.
By the way, cultural genocide is like taking, like Starbucks does. You take great Italian espresso coffee and you put ginger nut, eggnog, hazelnut, caramel in it. That's cultural genocide.
And you make a ton of money doing it.
Or it's like the collard greens that Neiman Marcus was selling for like $300 around Christmas.
All right, we have to move on here. We're not afraid to roll the dice on this show. So we're debuting a new daily segment with our Fox News specialists when we return.
All right, ready for this? Today we're trying out a new daily segment on the Fox News Specialists. We're calling it Circle Back. We return to our specialists on an interesting point they've made or we've made during the show, or get answers to any questions that Kat, Eboni, and I may be dying to ask them. So hopefully this goes well. And if it doesn't, we'll never speak of it again. I'm going to kick it off. Marie, I just wanted to point out that I was just asking myself, when did Marie Harf become such a reasonable Democrat? That's not my question. My question goes to Mark Steyn. You got to tell me about the cat videos, brother. Where did that originate?
I got a new cat, and I started singing to the cat, and the cat seemed to enjoy it.
That's normal.
I realized that there are far more good cat songs than there are good dog songs. So the good news is I'm not planning on making a dog song album.
Well, I might push back on the dog thing, but
follow that.
And Eboni, it's your shot.
My shot. Okay, so speaking of albums, I am also a fellow jazz musician. Actually, that's strong. I really was just a jazz band high school geek. I played alto and tenor saxophone. I want to know your biggest jazz influences. I'm a huge fan. I know, E, you're not really that into it, but who are your jazz
well, I'd probably say Count Basie, but I'd be accused of cultural genocide.
No. I would defend you, like, rigorously.
No, I love the sound of the Basie band. But if you want to, if you do play alto sax, I'll come back and we'll do something for the Fox News Specialist Christmas show.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh,
do you really?
I do.
Okay, were you a high school band person as well?
I was in the concert band.
Okay, are you trying to one-up me?
No,
Is that what that is?
not the
I'm
good
just
band.
kidding. I'm
kidding.
All right, Kat, you want to jump in?
Marie, I wanted to ask you, you seem to be very, very aware of all the problems with the Democratic Party and relating to people. Is there anybody that you think is doing it well in the party at all?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think there are a group of folks outside of D.C. who actually are. People like Jason Cantor in Missouri, who ran against Roy Blunt this year, outperformed Hillary by double digits. He almost won. People like Pete Buttigieg in Indiana, who ran for DNC chair. These aren't household names. This is a next generation of Democrats who get the economic issues, and they also get why some of these identity groups want to hear from them. I also love Kirsten Gillibrand and some of the folks in D.C., but I think some of our best leaders are really outside of Washington.
What do you think, Mark? You agree? Any fave Dems?
No, I'm hoping to see Bernie Sanders.
He's not a Democrat.
No, but when he's like 112, he'll still be the glamorous face of the Democrat Party.
Oh, you're wrong.
Can we only have about a minute and a half or so. Can I ask you, specialist, one more time? The Trump administration said they're not going to even comment on Stephen Colbert's comment. Your thoughts on what they should do with the Colbert comment?
I think they should leave it for others. I don't think it's as I said, I think that's like a Soviet thing for the state to comment on jokes. It's not something free peoples should ask their government to do.
Trump's probably got other stuff to do.
I agree. He has other things to do. Figure out health care. Figure out tax reform. Don't worry about late night TV.
All right, anyone else have any questions?
Fair enough. I was just going to ask Marie this. I know that you currently live in D.C., but you say that the best ideas for the Dems are kind of outside of that. What do you think about the new leadership at the DNC?
I want to see a little bit more from them. I like that they're going out in the country and talking to voters in different states. I like that sort of road show they've been on. I want to make sure they learn the right lessons from 2016. It's not that I don't think they have. I just haven't seen a lot of evidence of that yet. And I worry about the Bernie part of the party. They're not Democrats. We need to win some of them over, but...
Yeah, but you've got Mike Blake as, VP
Mike
and
Blake
stuff like
is
that.
Great.
Phenomenal.
And actually, I
Phenomenal.
think Joe Biden is a good...
I like Joe Biden.
still
I'm
a
not
good
going to
voice
lie.
for
I'm
our
not going to
party.
lie. I mean, I'm not even talking about whether I agree or disagree with him. I'm just saying, do I want to get brunch with him and have like 3 or 4 mimosas? Yes, I do.
How about this? The Democrat Party's down to two white men who are in their 70s as their hope.
Lovable dudes.
There's the next generation. Biden 2024.
Thank you to our Fox News specialists today, Mark Steyn and Marie Harf. And we want to thank all of you for watching. Make sure you keep the conversation going. Follow us on Twitter at SpecialistFNC. Remember, 5 o'clock will never be the same. Special report, Brett Baer, up next.